right, well, I guess then we will get started. Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is for Global Chambers event, and my name is Yuki Sasaru. I'm actually no member of Global Chambers. I should be a member. I come to Thunderbird. I'm a second year student graduating in May. I'm here to assist this event tonight, and I'm very excited. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm Gabriel Ortiz. We are a member of the chamber. I have a company called Primero Negocios. We actually have a couple of companies that are members of the Global Chamber. We've been since the last 3 years, I believe. I haven't been to Thunderbird, but one of my mentors, he is from Thunderbird. He's an alumni. Definitely looking into it, and so excited to be here. Hopefully, I have something valuable to share for you guys.
Okay, and then I'm Eric Malvin, also a member of the Global Chamber with my company PacBiz Outsourcing. And we do outsourced customer service out of the Philippines and got a team of 250 people out there. And we just hit our 10-year anniversary and been running my own company since 2011. So, and I can claim probably the earliest content creator title. I had a job at an ad agency in 2009 where they gave me the title content creator. And so I have, you'll see in the slides there some interesting stuff from back in the day.
Nice.
Beautiful. So yes, these are the panels, and I'll be facilitating the conversation. And we have some other members in room as well, and we have special supporter from Diego and Askias. They're not in the video, but they're in the room. So thank you for that. The flow is we would start with Gabriel's presentation, then Eric's. Then we want to open up the floor for Q&As. So we would do our best to catch your questions online. So I know Eugene from Global Chamber, she's here to help us. So we try to pay attention to the chat. So if you have questions, let us know. But with that view, Gabriel, do you want to take it over?
Sure. Yeah. So personal branding, that's something that has become really important in the last few years. And the deck I put together, it was just mainly about, some of the best practices up to date right now. And I'm actually more interested on listening to your guys' questions after we get to the Q&A, so we can make it more personal and more practical. That's usually how I operate. I'm terrible at writing down processes. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But, if you guys, we're here because we trust people, right? So we make connections. We're talking to Yuki about, building a community. And so that's no different from even doing it on the internet, right? On social media, on these platforms, people trust other people, right? Even a brand will have people behind them because they make that brand happen, So one of the most important things is that you guys, as you work on your brand is, I think this is a coin term that has been burned a lot. Be yourself so that way you can be unique. But it really comes to it, even if you're trying to follow somebody else to build your own brand, by making it your own, or putting your own perspective, your own opinion, that's you, right? That's your brand. And a strong brand will help you build opportunities. Back in the day when I started my career, I didn't really understand what that meant until really, if you can hear me, I have an accent, right? And back early, this is like 12 years ago, I was trying to get rid of my accent. But that actually helped me a lot and opened a lot of opportunities for me. So I was like, I'm making it even thicker. There were people were asking me like, hey, where are you from? And this is when I started working at Google, where some of my clients, they were like, hey, so, what other language do you speak? In Spanish, And I was the only Hispanic campaign specialist there. And all of a sudden I will double my accounts, just by doing it in Spanish. And so being yourself, you have a lot of qualities that other people might have, but you might not be using it. So that's really important to build a strong personality that when people leave the room, they have an impression from you. And that's how you want them to remember you. On LinkedIn, which is one of the biggest platforms that exists right now, is really what Facebook was back in the day. And there is a lot of decision makers. Some of them are not on LinkedIn, but it's really important that even if the people you end up making business decisions, partnerships, careers, jobs, anything like that, even if they're not prominent on LinkedIn at that point, when they end up looking at you, they found something about you, and you control what, is being found about you out there. So really important. Before I move on to the next slide, I just put Jeff Bezos there because I feel like everybody that makes a presentation likes to quote somebody famous, But he said that your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? And I will say that my great grandma said that before even Jeff Bezos had a business. She said, what do people think about you when they don't see you, right? Like when talking behind your back is really your reputation, right? I wanted to throw something in here that resonates with me. This came last year. People forget about you, not because they don't care, okay? But because attention is so short and distractions are everywhere. Especially, I used to have a smart Apple Watch. I got rid of it. I couldn't just like stop looking at it every time a notification came up, right? And so the last part is if you're not staying relevant, you're disappearing. And that came from my mentor, he's here in the room today, Brandon, who's an alumni from Thunderbird, and this is how, like, building personal brand, your personal brand is also by consuming other people's personal brand, right? And you grab the pieces that you assimilate with, you resonate with, becomes better, and then you start using those. Next slide. Basic stuff, right? Nothing that you wouldn't find on the internet or on a Gary Vee video, right? Just kind of, utilizing here. Number one, make sure you optimize your profile. I know that many of us are more prone to use one of our more favorite apps, Instagram, Snapchat, or, older generation, Facebook. But when today we're talking about your career, right? Your future connections and everything. So LinkedIn is a platform you really want to make sure you don't forget about. Make sure it's updated, make sure it's basically, every time somebody goes hunts a job, you want to make your resume is updated. Well, on LinkedIn, I will say, always make sure every month your LinkedIn is updated to everything you have done with your career day to day, right? So make sure it's optimized. Nothing you wouldn't find nowadays with AI, you can just do this pretty easily, is make sure you optimize it, right? There's ways of utilizing the platform to put, what you want to be people to know you for, right? Number two is post values, not just updates. So just don't copy and paste somebody else's content, because especially if somebody famous, they already saw it somewhere. But give your input, give your opinion. Sometimes, I bet you guys go through your days and something came to your mind like, how did I come up with that, right? Or share that, right? That's valuable to some other individuals that could be on LinkedIn, that can be in other platforms. Number three, be consistent, right? One of the things that I really got to this point in my career is if it's not my calendar, it's not going to happen. So even my wife has to put things in my calendar. Otherwise, it's something like, I told you about this birthday party, 2 months ago. I'm like, well, it's not on my calendar. Like I already booked a bunch of different things. And so, that's a flaw I had, but I found a way to, be able to manage that. And so being consistent with anything you do, guys, and if anything that's cool, hasta los fraud is really like 80% of being consistent, right? Deadlines, all those things. So treat your LinkedIn profile, and I will say your professional brand out there, just like that. Put it on your calendar, put tasks for yourself, whatever works for you. If you're a really great person, but like remembering everything by memory, perfect. If you have to write things down on a notebook, do that. But make sure you keep consistency on your professional brand out there. Engage intentionally. So just like we're here today and we say hi to each other and where are you from, where you go, like do the same thing on social media. Sometimes that's why people say, well, social media is so fake. And sometimes people like to translate that into professional brand. And that's your reputation, right? Your brand is your reputation. Well, be social, right? Be engaging in social media. Going back to LinkedIn right now, the amount of exposure you guys can get even right now before graduating to the right contact for either partnership, investment, business opportunity, a job. You guys have no idea the exposure you guys can get right now by liking your network's post. People that are on the global chamber, like, comment. Just don't post something just for commenting. Like, give something valuable that people really, not because it's being written on a comment, don't think that people don't know how that's coming across. And so there's a difference between saying, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Like, there is a sentiment to it, and people feel that through social media, right? Especially if they don't have a face or a video to look at. So engage intentionally, because those, LinkedIn, for example, going back to that, it exposes your engagement to that person's network. Right? If you guys have gone through the feed, you can see, oh, this contact that I have has liked or engaged in somebody else's post that I have no connection with, but we can, start building a relationship there. And number 5, highlight your wins and your aspirations, right? So this is something I had to actually put on my reminder list every month, maybe twice or 3 times a month, where whether it's a project you worked on, presentation you did, a competition that you won, in our cases, maybe a success story with a client that, we solve a huge thing, is documenting those things and sharing them, are really important, because you're highlighting what your skills are, your experience, right? And I just went to Venture Madness last week, and the keynote speaker, he was hitting that point strong. It's like, got to the point, had to build a website about me that I update every week, because at some point people don't believe me, I did these things, And I'll share that website with you guys and his profile, and it doesn't have to be always polished, super professional. You just have to be you and show people with, people buy into you. Companies, jobs, people that hire, they buy, yeah, your skills are kind of like the basic thing, but they hire you because of who you are also, Next slide. And again, your brand is equal your reputation times visibility, right? So a reputation is being built not by just what one person says, but what many people say about you, right? How do they know you? And so you gotta make sure that your content, you gotta ask yourself these questions when you are using your content on your platforms. Again, LinkedIn is the basic, I would say is the basic foundation of if you're a professional and going into your career, but do the same thing with Instagram, right? Do the same thing with a professional Facebook page. You don't have to give access to everybody to your personal Facebook page, but you want to control what's out there about you, right? And so you got to ask these questions for yourself is, what do you want people to know you for? Right? So if I think about Diego later, like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? It's just like high school all over again. It's just like, oh, I think about Diego, oh, he's the joker in the group, he can make us laugh, right? Oh, I know Gabe from the group. He's the guy, like, he's just in our butt. Like, we gotta deal the deadlines, right? Like, it's the same thing with your professional brand online. Is what do you want people to think about you when they found your brand, right? How can you show up consistently to that message, right? So be consistent. Pick a term, trend, pick a niche, right? Whatever that is, be consistent. People like consistency. People remember consistency. And are your posts, comments, and profile aligned with your goals? So whatever your goal is, whether you're an entrepreneur here, right, whether eventually you want to sell your company and exit, or I don't know, you want to be the VP of Miranda of America, like, you gotta have a goal in mind that your brand aligns with. So how are you building brick by brick to that point, right? And so just ask yourself these questions, because if you ask yourself these questions today, then you make a plan. I don't think a lot of people, professionals, are treating their social media professional platforms or profiles just like, marketing, right? Just like treating a client. Okay, a client just came in, I saw him this is the game plan of what we need to do every month, right? We gotta do the same thing for our brand. The last slide doesn't have much information other than, if you wanna connect, let me know. Obviously, my information is on the landing page of the Global Chamber and everything. But I'm always open to talking to people about this. I love marketing. I love business. Probably too much. Sometimes I can sleep. But I always have ideas. I always have, I love doing this because in marketing, you're trying to learn what people makes them make those decisions, right? Why, and then how can you get them to make that decision? So I want to hand over to Eric. I know he has a different perspective on personal brands, so I'm actually really interested myself on hearing it.
Thank you. And maybe I should have pointed out at the beginning, but this session was, kind of meant to support the emerging leaders to brush up their LinkedIn and their like personal brandings. So that was a perfect way to start it. And I'm sure so many people online in here checking their LinkedIn profile right now to make sure it's looking great. So that's beautiful. Now moving on to Eric. And I'm not sure if people on online can see, but Eric brought us so many gears. So
Yeah, I brought some props today because I wanted to make it real and show you guys what I do when I'm out creating my content. Because it's, this has taken many years of like trial and error, going out, not getting good audio, not getting good footage, bad lighting, you name it, and so these are lessons from like personal experiences. And a lot of it's a missed opportunities here too. So I think it'll be interesting. And I'm going to talk about several platforms, but I think everything that I talk about can be applied directly also to LinkedIn as well. And LinkedIn isn't the only place that you should be putting your content. There are other platforms, and if you're making it for LinkedIn, it's really easy to repurpose it for other platforms as well. So here's an example of my personal branding, which I did probably about 1.5 years ago, to kind of differentiate myself. I started out doing videography, working at ad agencies, and I'm really into photography. So I have a Instagram account that is full of photography, full of things that are not helpful for my business. And it's really relevant because if you talked about consistency, and the platforms will reward you for being consistent. So, and I'll go into that in a moment, but you can see here how I've been able to tie it all together so that if someone finds me on LinkedIn and now they see my, see me on YouTube or Instagram or somewhere else, they'll be able to see that picture of my face. It's recognizable, and then they can tie it together like, oh, this is the same person. If you have different picture everywhere, you look different. One thing you're, playing the guitar, and another one you're professional. It's going to be hard for them to say, is this the right person? Am I following, like they're looking for the professional side, especially, we're talking about starting your professional brand. Some of the stuff I'll talk about, these are things that if I would have done it sooner in the beginning, if I'd have known, it probably would have made my professional brand stronger, and I wouldn't have diluted it so much with some of this other stuff. So, but that gives you an idea like how you could take yourself and create your own personal brand on different platforms, because you want to make it seamless. And even there, it's still like I could do better with the same graphic headline across all the pages, but this is definitely a step in that direction. So, and if you can go to the next one. Sorry, this is a fun little story here. With on YouTube. Let's see, there we go. So if you could see there, it's kind of small print, but it says, this is a screenshot I took today. There's a video from 14 years ago and 15 years ago with some view counts that you probably would be pretty happy with. One has 6K, other one has 170 something K.
Yeah.
So the idea here is be consistent. I had this idea back in 2008 or 9, and I don't think the video, I didn't put the video in, but we won't play it. You can see me like 15 years younger doing this, talking on camera. And I made these 2 videos, and I had this idea of creating this brand online, branding, you can see a logo. If you play the video, I had my friend create a theme song. We had this whole thing, and I made 2 videos and I walked away from it and kind of forgot about it. And it wasn't until like maybe a year later, someone reached out. They're like, Eric, I saw your video on YouTube. I'm like, what video are you talking about? I looked up, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this has so, like, especially back, remember 2009, like you have that many views. That's crazy. And I should, like, my plan was to make a new video every week, but I didn't. I wasn't consistent. So you have to be consistent. If I would have done that, what would have that turned into? What kind of doors would that, I could be in a completely different business path possibly. And so if you do that with your brand, you go and you're all motivated from today and you go make a page for yourself on LinkedIn, maybe you don't have one, or you go make a TikTok or a YouTube and you post 2 things and never go back again. This could be, so don't do that. Lesson number 1 there. But so when you create that, you create posts consistently. Otherwise the algorithms, the platforms, if you don't post, you post again and you'll lose your following. You might have a lot of followers, you don't keep them engaged. Facebook is not gonna, or Instagram or TikTok, they're not gonna show your content to these people.
Yeah.
So many people are creating content every second, and you're competing against all that and the advertising that's going in that they want to push. So all that noise out there, you got to be able to separate yourself. And if you're only posting once a month, every once in a while, randomly, people will not know to look to your page for content. And they start, you start posting consistently and people start looking for it. And when you don't post, that's when you start realizing people are paying attention, because then they start reaching out. Hey, Eric, I haven't seen a video from you for a while. What happened? What's going on? And so then you realize, oh, actually people are paying attention, even though you might not feel like it sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's one lesson. Let's see what's next here.
How similar case with Sailor.
See? So we can skip that. There's a video. You don't have to see me talking when I look way younger.
The successful post from Desert DJ.
Yeah.
If they want to see, they can find it.
Yeah, you can look it up. So here's another example that I think is highly relevant on LinkedIn as well. And I'm using my Instagram, and it's not businessy necessarily, but we could still apply. So last year I posted a reel that did really well, had some really interesting people commenting on it. Specifically, it was the Northern Lights were visible in Arizona, so a pretty unique thing. That's not something that normally many people didn't know that was possible. Top comment pinned on there was from a SpaceX astronaut. She's featured in a Netflix show. She's one of 4 people that were selected back in around 2020 to go into space and be first civilian astronauts. And Dr. Proctor is actually from Phoenix, professor at local college, and saw her comment. I'm like, this is great. I got an actual astronaut commenting. And so I was able to engage with her. She had an event here in town, and I was able to meet her in person and connect with her. We're connected on Instagram now, and who knows where that can go. I mean, she just recently did a talk to the UN. She's all over the place. So leveraging other people, like if we were able to do a post together, and you did that on LinkedIn with someone at that level, that's going to give you a much broader reach. So when you do like joint posts on Instagram with a bigger brand or bigger following, that's how you get more followers and you get more attention, because it's frustrating when you're posting stuff and you're like, I'm getting 10, 15 views here. Like, how long can I keep doing this? Well, this will expose you to other people. And when you do that, they see all your other posts, and that matters. And yeah, you might not have that many when you start, but when they go and they see your years or months of posts, and they could like, oh, there's actually something here. Then you start getting followers. And then when you go viral, then you have an opportunity to really attract followers. But if you have 2 posts and you went viral, they're like, I don't know, they don't never post anything. I'm not going to follow. So, but that works with LinkedIn. And you could pick the people on LinkedIn that, who's associated with your brand. Where do you want to go? Who's the influencers in your space that you can connect with and build that relationship with? And, being you guys are emerging, not a lot of the people in business are older. So, you have an opportunity. People like to help the younger ones that are starting out and give you guys opportunities. And they'd be like, yeah, let's do a video together. Sure. And that could change everything for you. Mm-hmm. So still working on where I could take this. I have a dream of creating documentaries and movies one day. So actually this is to put her in one of my documentaries. So, but I'm thinking like several steps ahead here. So, but that's one example of, turning something digital into a real life connection. All right. And then next, here's another thing. So I talked about, I had this photography based Instagram account, and I'd post business posts on there. And I still do, but I mean, it's frustrating when I'll have a post that gets, my top post I've ever done has 22 million views. I can tell you it's not done a single thing for my business. In fact, I think it has ruined my algorithm so that only people who like basketball, like that's the only stuff that gets views. So be consistent, like stay on brand. If you start going way off brand and now that thing went viral, you might have permanently damaged your social media account. So now that's the only thing that you will get views on. And so I ended up splitting my accounts into 3 different accounts so that you have all the different like photography, everything goes there, doesn't get mixed with the business. And I could dive more into the business stuff now on Biz with Eric. And you're building a following there. Like the content is different. And I have this wildflower thing. I turn my front yard full of rocks into wildflowers every spring here in Phoenix. And I'm working on something to teach everybody that. And so there's a lot of people that are interested in that. That has gone viral. And so I've separated that out too. So there's all these different things. So because again, if you're all over the place, I thought, hey, this would be great. You know, I could talk about photography, talk about business. Nobody is going to follow you for those 3 things. Like there are 3 random things that aren't tied together. That's me, you know, and then it's good to, you know, be yourself, like talk about those things, you know, but don't make that your whole, you know, and don't mix it up so much. So that's something that I've done to try to develop more of my personal brand and differentiate things. So here's some practical stuff, essential equipment. If you want to do videos, here's the microphone. We're wearing it right now. And in fact, another tip I got, if you guys watch those people on TikTok with all the microphones, I even got the little tiny mic, you know, we could be all comical and interview with the tiny microphone. But this right here clips right into this. And for you guys there, it clips, the wireless mic clips right into there. And now you look like a reporter, right? And instantly overnight, you have instant credibility because of this. Like this means something. So, and this cost me like $15 and another like $20 for this box thing. But and then obviously the microphone is what really is expensive. But you plug that right into your phone, and now, and I have it sitting over here, hopefully still recording. I think my phone ran out of memory, but this is it. This is all you do. It's right there. It records. It's effortless. You could plug it into cameras and other equipment. And then this is the other essential equipment, a tripod. You don't want to be holding your phone the whole time talking if you're doing some kind of interview stuff and you're shooting video. It's a little bit of investment into your personal brand, but if you're doing the video route, which is, you know, a good way to go. If you're not just on LinkedIn, now videos work on LinkedIn too. I've got a client that is an influencer in the trades and regularly gets hundreds of likes for every post on LinkedIn. And so, but they do this kind of stuff. So tripod, a phone mount, and the audio, because if you're at it's very rare that you're in a room like this where it's nice and quiet and controlled. Yeah. You're usually like in a conference and there's tons of people around, there's chaos, and you will not hear anything in the video. And put that online, no one's gonna watch it because they're like, I can't hear what they're saying. You know, so this is how you fix it. You could be there could be a band playing behind you and you'll still be able to get audio good enough. Like you might not even be able to hear the person talking, but you could I should put my mic back on. You can put that microphone in their face and then it'll pick it up. So, but there's some equipment, some tips that took years to figure out. And then we're moving faster. When I first started, I've been doing video production for like 25 years now, maybe more. And I'm used to the old school way with the cameras and all the equipment and like suitcases full of gear and stuff. And he's laughing because I'm sure he's dealt with it too. And what you could do today on your phone and just editing something right there, and the tools to edit are so quick, and you could turn things into transcripts and edit them in seconds. Yeah. That's the way you need to be able to do it. If you're thinking, oh, I've got to put it on my computer and edit it and stuff, which probably you guys aren't thinking like that. This is like probably more our generation trying to get out of that. But that's why you got to work on your phone. Everything's so quick. And then you could turn around and put that video up online in minutes, because that's also key too. I don't have a slide for it, but timing is everything. When I posted that Northern Lights video, I did it like right as soon as it happened, because there's a bunch of other people posting stuff. And if you're the last one posting it, it's too late. You know, like how important is timing for someone?
I would say I have learned over the last several years in my career that timing is probably the most important thing in business. Like you can be prepared, but not on the right time. And so how do you get on the right time? Just being ready all the time, you know? So, and the thing is like being ready looks different for different people, right? But if you're not working on it, you know, I know some people probably are like, look guys, I'm here talking to you. I am by default, I don't know about you, man. You look more social than me. That's my perception. But my default nature is being like super, what's the word? Introvert, yes. Me and my wife, okay? But I like money and I like success. So I really force myself to like work on it, right? And so many of the reasons why I come to these things is like, I gotta keep practicing this. It's like a muscle memory. If you don't like video, you're not great at video. There's like, this is the beauty of social media. Like you can be communicating with people in so many different formats, just audio. If you don't want to be recorded, just writing. I'm not that great at writing, but there are some people like that. That's one of the main reasons why I married my wife. I fell in love how she expresses herself in writing. But the key is like in timing, if you're not putting this stuff out there, especially for your professional career, you're gonna miss the opportunity. You're gonna miss the time. And I'm pretty sure with, 10 years now in your company, you have learned a bunch of different times, but like we missed the time, like not the deadline, we just missed it,
Yeah, like if you're at a conference and you meet you get a chance to get a selfie with the speaker and he's like really famous. And you wait a week to post it. Well, right now, that moment you post it right away, there's a lot of people looking at maybe the hashtag for that event. They're looking at the content associated with that. That's the time that post can get shared. You post it a week later, people forget about it. We talked about the attention span. It's so true. Like, if you start thinking about how busy we all are, like even just being able to keep up with my own wife and kids and stuff, it's like, man, it's like, how do I expect a company that I'm trying to connect with, or a business owner or a business leader I'm trying to connect with, to pay attention to me? And I could barely keep up with my own family.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're competing against, and think of how busy their lives are. So, and remember, these are all people. Like, you hit them with your pitch online, they're getting how many of those a day? Like, you got to treat them as people. Like, hey, how are you doing? And connect with these guys and really engage with them, build the relationship. Like, you try to spam everybody and say, hey, I got this new app and I want to talk to you about it. You're probably the 5th person that day that sent them a message. So how do you stand out against that? It's by spending time engaging with them, like looking at what they post. How do I connect with them? Because I could see what their interests are. And that will get you the in and separate you from everyone else trying to do the same thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's some tips for equipment, which I hope is helpful. Practice. Actually, Gabe said kind of the same thing. The more you go out there and do this, the more that you're going to get better at it. It's just this life, right? And so you might not, like at an event like even like today, maybe you practice and you're like, I'm going to interview some people. And you realize, you get back and you're like, oh, I didn't turn on the microphone. You can't hear anything they said. I've gone through that. But you learn and you build a process, and like you double check before you start recording, make sure the audio is showing up on the little audio meter here. And, but you learn all this stuff, and you only learn by doing and going out and experiencing it. And like, I've interviewed like an NFL player in a business event and the microphone wasn't on. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so mad. And that was like the one time I hired an outside videographer to do it, because I'm usually doing this myself. Now I'm like back to doing it myself, because I'm like, all right, I could do it better just with a tripod and, the microphone. But this is how you learn, is by practicing, by doing it. And again, not by doing 2 posts and never going back again. It's doing it consistently, and putting yourself out there. So
I think these are really practical advices, like, couple posts a week. That's something I think we all can do. And I didn't think of a video, because everyone posts pictures on LinkedIn. So why not start with the videos?
Yeah, I do it all the time, and it gets, some of them get a lot of views. So
yeah.
And I don't know if I have a slide for it, but you'll see I'm wearing, maybe you can see kind of online. I got a cactus shirt. And so, and I have this at my desk, actually, and this is another prop too, like lighting. If you're at your house, set up your space, or your wherever, your apartment or dorm room, whatever. Set up your space so that it looks nice. Spend a little money, like making it look cool. Maybe you can go on make like a custom LED logo to put behind you, to set yourself apart. But it makes such a world of a difference when you got a light shining on your face and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
properly lit versus like you're in some shadows and it looks like you're, undercover doing this video or something. So, but you talked about being yourself, and you really got to lean into your personality. So for me, like my clients are international. I barely have anybody here in Arizona I work with, and so they associate, cactus and desert with Arizona. And so what do? I hype that up.
Yeah.
And to be really successful online, you got to take part of your personality and hype it up even more and exaggerate it. That's some of the advice that I've been given before, is like, because if there's so many people posting online. How do you separate yourself? And then it's very difficult, like hearing Gabe talk about he's an introvert and he really has to put himself out there. Like that's a lot of people out there. Like, so,
Me too.
and so it is a little challenging on that. But again, by doing it all the time, by practicing, it'll get better and you'll see better results out of that. But also there's parts of his personality that he could hype up because that's who he is. You don't want to change who you are. Like if you go and say, well, because you can do this, right? You could create your own narrative, your own story that doesn't even exist and start putting it out there, and people don't know that that's not you. But at some point you're going to burn out. You're completely faking yourself. That's how this is not sustainable. But if you're 100% yourself and just be who you are online, that you can keep doing because it's not taking more energy. You're just being yourself, sharing out, this is what I did. Share your failures, share your successes. No one ever talks about their failures. So when you do, it gains a lot of respect. That's something it took me a while to learn too.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh man, I'm telling people where I messed up. Like, no, because no one talks about their failures, it shows how much stronger you are. And that sets you apart too. So.
True. I'm gonna chime on that too. Like, so many people are not using their background on Zoom, Zoom video, because you can blur back yourself, but like you could also create your own. So mine, like right now I'm in person, but like my Zoom has my name and a QR code to my LinkedIn. I also put the country that I worked on because that's something that stands me out, like you were saying. I worked in like 5 or 6 different countries, so I put and the states like New York, Oregon, Tokyo, Rwanda, Arizona, or like Philippines. Then people would ask me questions, but that creates a really great icebreaker on the Zoom. So that really worked for me. And after this, we're gonna open up the floor for the questions, but to buy you some time, I'm gonna share a little bit of my story too. So I started my career in New York, and my first profession was public accounting. So unlike other manufacturing companies, we don't produce anything. If it's great product, even if your branding sucks, they will still trust you because they trust the product. But accounting, we don't produce anything. So credibility to us, the way we carry ourselves was everything, because that's where we make big, that's why we get to charge the client a lot, more than what other accounting firms are doing. So like how to present yourself was the product. So one thing I learned from our seniors, and I think that's why New York is the way New York is the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the words you choose, the type of language. There's a different tones, depending on which industry that we talk to. So we had to adjust that a little bit. So adjusting what we wear to different clients. So that's how I learned the self-branding. We had one client on a Broadway. So the company that owns the Broadway show theaters, they request us to wear the full suit. If you're a gentleman, you have to put the handkerchief too. That's required to walk in their building. Wow. We had some oil industries in Louisiana. They don't want us to come in a dress. They asked us to come in jeans. Then we had to talk casually. So being able to adjust that depending on who you're talking to and being able to read that helped me. And I think that's how I learned. But when it comes to the platform, going back to the LinkedIn, maybe I could have learned from you guys today that which side of me to show, like which style to be consistent with. So
Mhm.
I think we all can be intentional about that.
Yeah, well, I think him and I, we can go long on so many, because I can relate to Eric. We have learned like, I've studied, but I think most of the learning I have gotten like the real experience of like, falling your face over and over again, getting up. That, you remember that, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
like losing the audio from that interview. So it's not gonna happen again. So, but, what I would like from you guys is, I think, we wanna hear from you guys, like, any challenges, any shyness, right? Or complexes, because at least I know that's what I share, by default, I'm an introvert. I can relate to that, I don't have all the answers, but I know there's probably gonna be a few that we can connect with, and, oh, this is how I did it, and it's really up to you. The key is really up to you on doing it. Like, nobody's gonna come and do it for you. That's gonna be the difference, is you guys have to take action on these things. So I don't know, maybe we can hear some questions or.
Oh, I got one more. I will do this really quick. Another slide or two.
Oh.
That leverage AI. I'm not gonna talk a lot about this, but that could be its own presentation. But you guys have a tool that if I had this when I was, starting out, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. So there's no excuse anymore for you guys to not have, to not be able to do anything we're talking about today. Period. So that's all I'll say about that. I don't think we need to get more into AI right now. And then my suggestion, I brought the book too, and I have the picture of it, but if you don't know where to start, like, start with something. I'm not trying to promote Gary V here, but, anywhere, you just start with something, like, so that you are just not blindly going out into the wild thinking that you're gonna figure this out. There are people way smarter than all of us here that have been doing this for way longer and spending more money, that are willing to share their tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And the one quick advice I could say out of this that I think was the biggest takeaway, going back to measure your posts, like, what, at the end of every month, what was the most successful post you did? What was the worst one you did? Do more of the good ones, do less of the bad ones. If you just do that, I think that month over month is gonna change, what you're doing. And so, and have a proven process. When I was running a podcast, we got to 27 episodes. We're gonna bring it back eventually. But I think I had 8 people involved in that, and there's so many steps. And if you try to do that randomly, it's gonna be very difficult. So for you guys, maybe you're not running a podcast and having this whole team of people, but maybe instead of trying to randomly think of content throughout the day and the week, do one day a week where you make your content, and then schedule it for us. Then you don't have to think about it for the next week.
Yep.
And that's a really great way to not burn yourself out and make it sustainable.
Yeah.
I
love that book. I think that's one of the best books I ever bought. And it's really nerdy too.
Yeah, there's like spreadsheet templates in there, and
I'll say buy the book and listen to the audio book while you're reading the book.
Yeah.
It's the best combination.
yeah, so
He goes off script so many times.
I'll have to do, oh, okay. It gets
It's like a
bonus
bonus.
material.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think that was like my last main slide. So I think there's one that says my info. Be yourself. And we talked about, whatever it is, whatever your interests are. I mean, don't make the mistake I did and do all the photography. Keep it business on brand, but you can still be yourself. You could be talking about business, and for me, I'm into basketball, so I could be talking about business. Like last night, I heard the CEO of the Phoenix Suns talking to us about business in a business group event that I was at yesterday. There you go. That's how you could tie it together and make it relevant. Don't go what I do and post a video of, Devin Booker getting in a fight with another player, and now that's all your Instagram is. But again, be yourself. Don't hide those things. And if they're weird and quirky, even all the better, because that means there's less people out there talking about that. And you are the only person in the world like yourself. And so we don't need another person that's already doing the same thing. Do something different.
You're the right type of fan.
Very cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah. That's all my slides.
Awesome. So now let's hear some questions or comments if there's anything you want to share. And Eugene is checking the ones on the Zoom, if there's any. Yes.
I should
you
check
do.
so I can ask one. I
No,
have two,
go
but I'll ask one and then we'll let the Zoom come in. So for me, in my like past experience, I think I went through like a stage of consistency of posting both on LinkedIn. TikTok was a really big thing for me at one point, and even Instagram. But I think I went through a decline of just not posting and then stopped. And what I found was it was extremely hard to get back on the ball again in consistency. So did you guys ever experience that? And then two, like how did you just get back into the consistency? Because for me, like that's the hardest part is jumping back onto posting and being consistent.
Yeah.
Because once you stop, it's just like, you know, so I don't know if you've experienced that. And if so, how did you get back on the ball?
I'll start.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actively going through that right now. So I had a videographer. We've been working together since 2020, and he went on to other opportunities, and so I'm still looking for another person to bring on. So that slowed down my stuff. I have a full-time assistant that's helping me get more content out now, which has been helpful. But we're going through this process. We've been around 10 years. We're working with looking for a new ad agency, and so we're rebranding, re-image. There's a lot of stuff. We're pivoting our whole company to become a tech company and not just a call center. And so everything's changing. So I just kind of put things on pause, and I'm just starting to, like, you'll see, maybe you could see it, will follow me and see the attempt to bring it back up. So, but I'm going through the same thing. And yeah, you have to be motivated. And I think, you know, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure if it's the best thing. Like, if you're not motivated, it might be okay to just take a little break. I don't think it's good to take like 6 months off or something. You probably start losing your audience, but again, going back to being yourself, you know, and being consistent, I think if you could push through and just keep posting, that would be the better thing. But I'm working on getting back on track, and I do want to see my stuff get out there more. So, but it's just going out to more events like this and starting to put myself out there more.
Yeah, I mean, I can say I can relate. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. You know, I'm going through this where I'm trying to get back into the gym, you know. But I think, so I forget the name of the book, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I think I found something years ago where I'm really into like what make things happen, right? And so I'm also really old school. I grew up in Mexico City. It was like, you guys were getting the iPhone. I was barely getting internet around the corner, you know? And so I grew up really old school where, like, you know, really rigorous discipline, things like that. And so when I found myself like that, I know my weaknesses and I know my strengths. But I also have learned how to manipulate or motivate myself, right? It's a different word, on getting things done. And so I wouldn't say you first of all be hard on yourself on, you know, taking a pause. You know, we are human beings, right? We have declines. What makes it different, again, we probably have like as an entrepreneurs and business owners or whatever, you always fall on your face so many times, and what counts is you get back up, right? And it goes with the same thing with your other areas. What I would say is always remind yourself why you do it for. And in this case, right now, we're talking in a setting for your career, right? And like I said, you gotta have a goal, your end goal in mind, right? You wanna be a top executive, you wanna be selected as a CEO of a company, do you wanna start your own business, you wanna raise capital, like, what is your end goal? And so if you have that, you know where you're going, it doesn't matter if you do this sometimes, because much actually entrepreneurship is like this, and but then you're doing things to get back to that, then you start doing it again, right? So the thing is, don't quit, right? Most successful people is because they don't quit. So just remember what you're doing it for. Also, if you have a passion for it, like he was saying, like doing it, it doesn't feel like work, right? It doesn't feel like homework. People that do really great homework, I think they love homework, right? So it's like, how you get back into that is, and the beauty of the internet now is like, there's so many, I don't have anything new that, oh, Gabe came up with his own code or his own recipe. No, it's like just pieces together from like, I'm unmotivated. Like, what can I listen today that I have to get this done? So how can I like rewire my brain in the morning to get there, you know? I'm not saying I don't have bad days, but nobody's not gonna do it for you, you know? So how can you push yourself to do it, you know? 10% is better than 0%.
Yeah, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You know, like this is my 14th year of running my own business, and that's a long time. So, you know, stuff happens. I mean, throughout life, I got married, I got busy with that for a while. I had kids, things. So that life happens, but I mean, I think just going back to being consistent, you start posting again and start building it back up. And the algorithm will reward you, and one thing I'll say is, like you might think, oh, like that one post went viral and it didn't work out, and like, oh, if you're doing this consistently, it'll happen again, like don't stress out about like, you can't bank everything on like that one post being viral. Like you got to be able to do more than that. But like for me, I've had so many things go viral over the years. It's like, it'll happen again, when I have the right timing, the right content, and it's out there, and that will open up more doors.
Another recommendation might be asking yourself, like, why you're not motivated, like which part that doesn't motivate you. Some people don't like writing things, some people don't like pictures, or maybe you're just not going out to have enough like, activities, actions in the week, maybe. Then maybe you would have someone else that can do it for you. I'm horrible at taking pictures, so I always have one friend ask them like, can you take a lot of pictures and give it to me?
The one that has a lot of selfies, that's what.
Yeah, yeah.
They know all the angles.
Exactly. I'm looking at one right now in the room. So there's always people like that, and texting, like you said, ChatGPT, they can just nail it for you. So maybe like figuring that out might be really helpful too.
Mhm.
Any other comments, questions?
I was just gonna ask the room, so like, I'm maybe one generation ahead of you guys, right? I wanna know from this most recent generation, what's your intention, like Gabriel was asking, like, what are you trying to accomplish with your personal brand? Like,
Right.
is it to get a job or to start, like, if you're trying to start an agency, like, you're gonna post way different kind of content, right?
Mhm.
So just general question, what are you guys trying to do with your personal brand?
For me, I think definitely visibility. Just broadening my visibility to potential employers. Also,
What industry?
I'm open to any industry, but practice-wise consulting, and in international business development. But yeah, I think right now I'm actually at a place where I'm trying to figure out what my branding, how I want to brand myself, and what is the angle. And that's actually awesome that you asked that, because I was going to ask you guys, when is it that you found out what your goal is, or what your brand is that you want to market yourself with? So yeah, I think that's an interesting question, and I think that's something that I want to figure out ASAP.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I hate this word because it's so brand and market. I'm a marketer, I hear make marketers, okay? I'm just gonna say, because there's so many bad ones out there.
Yeah.
But you gotta know a little bit marketing, and I would say you gotta figure out your niche, right?
Mhm.
Because again, if you don't know what your goal, and your goal can change, that's fine. But if you gotta have like your goal set right now, so you can start taking action. Otherwise, the efforts you're gonna do are gonna feel like it's not working, or I'm not even moving forward because your goal is not set, right? It's like the picture. I like the picture he had, like the target, right? So because, for example, based on what you do, there can be so many different specific niche, right? It's like me, like I'm in marketing, right? Marketing has so many different places, but then it's not like I knew this from the beginning. Like it took me years to like narrow it down and listening to people. So now like, okay, like one brand is about marketing. Okay, now what? It's Hispanics. Okay, Hispanics, there's so many, okay, small businesses, right? Like, so you gotta narrow it down. So when you put your brand out there, you build it, you gotta resonate with a specific group of people. You're gonna be more efficient. So if you're looking to get a specific employers to look at you, you should create a customer persona about those employers, because you need to learn who they are, what age they are, what experience do they have. We do this in marketing. Why do they hire people? What do they look at, right? And you know these things to build your resume also. But then, they're just people like you and I, and they go and consume content somehow on the internet. And how can you be there present when they found you? And so you don't want to advertise to or put your brand to everybody, because then your efforts are going to be minimized, the efficiency of it. So I will say, okay, I want to work for these employers in this kind of company for this kind of specific thing. ChatGPT is amazing. Like you can actually like not even figure it out. You can ask like, what are the main pain points those employers or people that will hire me have? And you can be talking about those things. And you can change it later. Look, I'm just before passing the ball to Eric, because I want to hear what he has to say. Right now, you guys just like, if you read my bio and it has some things in there, like, right now I have a marketing company, I have a business partner in nearshoring, we have staff in Mexico, and I'm working on launching a dental chain with my business partner here, okay? But I have done roofing, okay? I have cleaned restrooms, I have been an English teacher, okay? I have done construction, I have done sales, I have driven for Uber, for Lyft, for like, so my goal has changed so many times until you find like the one I'm really in love with this and you just hone it in, And so it's fine that you're trying to figure it out. That's totally fine. But then you gotta like, okay, I'm the kind of person, I'm a little bit weird. I wanna go in all fast. If I'm gonna fail, I wanna fail quickly and just move on. Like I don't wanna waste, so much time just doing it halfway and things like that and have a target always that I know I'm moving forward,
For sure.
I mean, I think everything you said is spot on. I'll give an example, offline example of like something I think that'll help you out. Because when I first started, with my call center, I said, we could be a call center for everybody, and I would go tell people that, hey, if you need a call center, we could help you out. What that does is absolutely nothing for you, because when you're like, if your business can help everybody, like it's too generic. If someone is in the audience, they need to be able like to say, I know somebody I could send you. And if you say I could help every business, that's not going to motivate that person to say, I'm going to send you that person, because it's like, what can I do with that? But if you come in and you're like, I am focused on, banking, and we have fintech technology, and, we're going to revolutionize payment, blah, 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 whatever it is. Now, the people in the room that's relevant to, it's gonna capture their attention, and that's gonna set you apart. And then people can see, okay, I know who I can send your way, and it's relevant or not. Because what also happens when you say you could do everything to everybody, that's not true. You're gonna get people that'll come to you and wanna work with you, and you're like, oh, this isn't me, this isn't what I wanna do. And now you're wasting your time with opportunities that aren't gonna push your goals forward.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
And we have 1 minute left,
Ah.
so I'm gonna save that question because that is a great question. Everyone should be asked that question, so thank you. I'm gonna leave that for the rest of the networking time, but any burning questions that you wanna ask before we go? I see some comments coming in online, Eugene, I check.
Yeah, are there any questions on the?
Do you guys want me to
Yes,
tell you what questions you should be asking? You should be asking about the platforms and the analytics side of it, because even with how good your content is, you still have to boost the stuff. And Gary Vee's a big promoter of this as well. You gotta create A-grade content, but you still gotta put $100 behind it just to get in front of enough views, right? So that it can go viral. It's because the platforms are changing so quickly. I don't know if you guys can speak to that. That's something I'm always trying to adapt to. I'm asking Gabe this every other day, like what's changing, what are we seeing, what's trending, etc.
What I would say to that is, and I learned this a long time ago, you need to see so whatever role you're gonna be in, the beauty of you guys, how old are you guys? Like, I'm 35, I'm turning 36 this year. How old are you guys?
21.
Okay, so early 20s or, okay. I don't want to put the latest on. I learned that how not to ask girls to. But the point here is like, you guys have a great advantage of like figuring this stuff out earlier. And how do you also get motivated? I would say, see, everything you put out there for your professional brand is an investment. And so nothing that you push out there is gonna be something that you won't recoup later, right? What you're gonna miss out is if like days keep going by and you're not doing something to create your reputation, your brand, your professional career out there, right? And so it's an investment. Sometimes, we are into fitness and, we invest into energy drinks and protein shakes and like all this stuff, and we do that, right? Sometimes we like, love cars and like, you have every mod on the car and things like that. And I think a lot of people, you don't have to be in marketing, right? You don't have to run a company, but the same foundation of like knowing how these platforms work and how can you push your brand, whether you want to go 100% on it or 5%. Again, any of that is better than zero, right? And so invest in it, invest in it. I have friends that they like to invest a lot on their beauty, and that's fine. I'm not judging them, but the setting right now that we're in, we're trying to take value on how you guys can find the career you want, the job you want, the opportunities you want. Like, boy, you gotta start building something, right? And man, I remember when I had to go to the library and use the encyclopedia to do my homework back in Mexico, and now it's everything on the phone. It's like if anything history has shown us is technology keeps moving forward, we are the ones who, a lot we don't move forward with it, and we use it to, me included. Okay, I'm not putting you guys on the spot, but like sometimes I'm just like, I spend so much time watching people gaming. I'm like, what am I doing? Meantime, they're building a business, right? So this foundation can be applied on anything you want to do.
I mean, to add to that, there's a stat when I used to work at Yelp, pre-IPO days. So this is like 15 years ago, almost. Yeah, 15 years ago. And one of the things I learned there, and I think I haven't gone back to look at the data, but there was a stat that I was kind of stuck with me. Like 1% of the people create the content, 99% of the people consume. So like in Yelp's case, it was 1% of the people were writing reviews and 99% of the people were just searching them. And I remember at one point that held true for other platforms as well, like YouTube and stuff. And so most of the people are consuming. So as long as you are now going to become a creator and you're going to be helping put that content out there that people want to see. And so like you said, with the personas, right? Like who are the people you want to target? Like what kind of stuff do they want to see? And how can you create that kind of content that would attract those people? And if you could do that and do it consistently, I'd love to hear, 6 months from now, like where you guys are at with, what you've been able to do with that. Because I believe like, that's the beauty of the internet. He talked about how things were in the Philippines where our call center is. I remember when I was little and I was going there and I had to go to an internet cafe to be able to email anybody. And that was like the only time in 30 days that I had access to like the outside world. And other than that, like there was no other internet. And, like what we're able to do now, even in remote places in the Philippines is crazy. So it also means there's more competition. Those people in the Philippines can now compete directly with you online for your job.
Yeah.
And with AI, it's making the world even flatter and creating more opportunities for them to be able to compete with everybody as well. So, but we got some really, we can go to a conference out here and you could talk to people and, that's really difficult for someone that's living in a small village in the Philippines. So, there's still some advantages that you guys have, but it takes you going out there and putting yourself out there and creating that story. And one other thing is there's a book, Atomic Habits. And one of the things they teach you in there is you have to tell yourself, I am a person that creates content online, and you start telling other people and that becomes you. If that's important to you to build your personal brand, you start doing it like the gym thing. You start telling everyone, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start working out. Eventually, your friend's going to start asking you, have you been going to the gym? How's it going? Like you become the person that works out. So it needs to become part of who you are if you want to make it, because it could be a way to catapult your career, your business, your brand, if you invest into it that way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your advice and insight. That was really cool. And I hope we can take some, practical things out for sure. So let's put our hands together for Eric and Gabriel. All right. So again, this was from Global Chambers, and this is to create more like active youth community. Hopefully there will be more to come. And thank you so much for joining and have a good night.
Yay. Thank you.